With so much happening in the royal family, I wanted to take a look at Meghan Markle's astrology chart to see how this whole situation is influencing her at the moment. Obviously, we're aware that King Charles was diagnosed with cancer. We don't know much about it. We don't know any specifics, but we can probably guess that it isn't pretty good since, King Charles has essentially been receiving some sort of treatment for this. Also, we have the Princess of Wales controversy that's been happening. A lot of people have been wondering how she's doing. She had the abdominal surgery, and then there was this altered photo that people were speculating about. So there's a lot going on in the royal family, and so we're kind of wondering how is this influencing Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's relationship, and what other information can I glean out of the astrology chart? That's what we're going to be looking at today. For those of you that are new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe. Of course, thank you for all my new subscribers. And by the way, I practice Vedic sidereal astrology, which is the astrology from ancient India. Your sign will likely be different using this method. It's different than Western tropical astrology, which originates in ancient Greece. The goal is 10,000 subscribers, and thank you all for helping me to reach my goal. I think we're going to get there. If you're interested in a personal private reading, you can check down below for details. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Meghan Markle's astrology chart. And we'll look at some specific planetary placements that I found of interest when I was looking at her chart earlier. Quick disclaimer, this astrology reading is for entertainment purposes only. All statements about Meghan Markle are all allegedlys, and we're just speculating as to the astrological energies. All right, so let's talk about Meghan Markle's chart. You know what's interesting is I just realized that she's a Cancer ascendant, just like so many people in the royal family are. So now we have King Charles as Cancer ascendant, Queen Camilla's Cancer ascendant, and I believe the Princess of Wales Cancer ascendant. Well, Meghan Markle's Cancer ascendant. So that's interesting. However, there's a lot of unique features about each one of their charts as well. Now, the big thing I want to bring up about what's happening with Meghan Markle's chart is the Saturn transit that's happening right now. And then we also have Rahu and Ketu transit. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on a lot today is these two transits. But also remember the Rahu Ketu transit is going to be very much influenced by the lunar eclipse that's happening on March 25th. And then there's a solar eclipse happening on April 8th. So we'll describe also, or I'll describe how that's going to influence Meghan Markle as well. First, let's go ahead and take a look at the Saturn transit. So transiting Saturn is in the 8th house of Aquarius in Meghan Markle's chart. Now, the transit started back in January of 2023, and it's going to last until March of 2025. So it's about a whole nother year of this transit that's happening. And it's interesting with all these royal family members that are having this Saturn going through the 8th house transit. Obviously, it is bringing up a lot of chaos. 8th house does represent things like shocking events, chaos, damage control. It represents transformation. So there's likely a transformation of the royal family that's happening right now. I'm really going to break that down. I created a slide for you all. So hang on, let's go ahead and put that slide up so we can get an idea of what that represents. So notice that what the 8th house means, especially for Meghan Markle's chart, the 8th house, it does represent things like in-laws. It does represent things like the joint marital financial estate. It also represents transformation. Let's kind of go through each one of those. First of all, if you think about it, in Meghan Markle's chart, Saturn rules the 7th house and the 8th house for Cancer ascendant. And when Saturn's going through the 8th house of a chart, it can always represent general difficulties for your in-laws. And obviously, that's happening with King Charles and the cancer diagnosis. Now, Saturn is the seventh lord, so this would be very serious. Remember the houses that could represent like an end of an incarnation would be the second house and the seventh house. And so Saturn's the seventh lord going over the eighth house. So remember, it's a very serious time right now. There's a lot of difficulty indicated with this transit. Remember, it's going on from now as we make this video all the way till March of 2025. So it's almost less than a year now as of the making of this video. Now, Saturn also can represent issues with the joint marital financial estate. Now, why do we consider the eighth house the joint marital financial estate? That's because if we look at the second house from the seventh house, that's what the eighth house is. So if you want to look at marital finances, you look at the eighth house. So it's causing difficulty there. Now, we don't know the inside scoop of what's happening with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's finances. But I could assume with this transit that maybe they're not doing as well as, at least from her point of view, she would like. Okay. So we know a lot of these deals and a lot of these exposés, they've kind of run their course at this point. So, okay, can she keep the momentum going? And now there's this royal family crisis. So it does kind of put them in this space of, do they want to keep coming out with all of these these books and these exposés about the problem with the royal family when King Charles is receiving a treatment for cancer? I would doubt that. I would highly doubt that. Now let's also take a look at another the Saturn transit from the point of view of your moon. Remember, in Vedic astrology, we don't just look at the ascendant sign, which is very important, but we also want to look at how is this transit, where is this transit from the angle of the moon? So if we were to count the houses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you'll see that the Saturn transit is happening 6 houses from Meghan's moon. Okay, so let me go ahead and clean up the chart a little bit. Let's clean this up. Now, I usually have the moon chart over here. So if you all want to bring your attention over here, the moon chart's over here. So this would be the first house. So Saturn's going through 6 from moon. Okay. And now 6 from moon is a difficult transit because the moon mostly represents our emotional relationships. So let me go ahead and describe that a little bit to you all through this slide here. So the transit through the 6th house, it's difficult. So let me back up for a second. The Saturn transit's happening in her 8th house, which is already a difficult transit, and it's happening from the 6th house from the moon. So this is like a double whammy type of transit for Meghan Markle right now. So it's hitting both of those, like what we consider the evil houses. Remember, the evil houses are 6, 8, and 12. So this is definitely bringing up a lot of issues. Now, Saturn in the 6th house is bringing up some sort of emotional imbalance. Remember, from the moon, it's like emotional things, emotional imbalance. There's a focus on trying to remedy the issues within relationships. Now, it could be relationship with the royal family and the in-laws, because if we look at the main chart, it's the 8th house, and then we look at the moon chart, it's 6th house. So trying to remedy that, well, it's kind of like that relationship, if you think about it, it's really broken at this point. Now Saturn, what it does is it tends to freeze the problem where it's at. So it doesn't tend to find a remedy when it's going through the 6th house. It's like it just freezes the problem. That's it. It just freezes it and prevents it from getting any worse. And also keep in mind, and I'm showing you right here in the slide, 6th house. There's this thing called Bhavat Bhavam in Vedic astrology where you count from house to house and you get extra meaning out of each house. So the 6th house is 12 houses from the 7th house. Okay. So it can represent a loss of agreement. It can represent a state of disagreement even within your marriage. Because remember, 12th from 7th would indicate a loss of agreement in trying to find some sort of middle ground within your marriage. So this what's going on with the royal family, what's going on from the point of view of the chart is this could be bringing in a lot of frustration within the marriage between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Now, Saturn, what it tends to do when it's in the sixth house is it does tend to prevent divorce. It can be all the way like it could seem like divorce is the best option, but it tends to want to avoid it. Remember, Saturn tends to delay, and Saturn doesn't want to make moves that are against social norms and social expectations. So that's always something to consider. Marriage, the institution of marriage, is considered a very Saturnian type of thing. It's a legal contract that's an institution of marriage. So Saturn would be trying to avoid that. Unless, worst case scenario. I mean, Saturn can bring an end, but, it's going to resist it at all as much as it can. Also, I do want to represent is Saturn in the sixth house for Moon. It also represents difficulty with emotional enemies. And let me show you that. Any of you can look at your astrology chart and get an idea of what are your emotional enemies within this current lifetime. Your emotional enemies are people that are going to be jealous of you. They're going to be angry at you. They're going to cause you discomfort. There's going to be some sort of imbalance caused by these emotional enemies. So, just like the Saturn transit we're looking at, you just look at your moon and then you count 6 houses from your moon. And then you can find out what house. So it's house number 8, and you can get an idea of the identity of the agents that cause the most emotional difficulty for the native's chart, which is Meghan Markle's chart we're looking at that moment. So 8th house, the absolute most triggering subject for Meghan Markle is likely issues with the in-laws and also issues with the joint marital estate. So joint finances, those are going to be trouble sore subjects for the native. Now, a lot of times, 6 from Moon can feel like it's this sense of unfairness. So even though people from the outside might be saying, what is she complaining about? From her point of view, everything about that house, the 8th house, is unfair. There's nothing fair about that. So when Saturn is going through the 8th house, it's bringing up all these emotional karmas from what the 6 from Moon represents. Okay. So this is definitely a trigger point right now. And, if we have a worst case scenario with King Charles in his Cancer, this could even be bringing up a lot more issues, because this is showing that for the next year, this is bringing up some very difficult emotional karmas. Let's go ahead and talk about the eclipses now. I'm going to bring you back to the slide. Now, these eclipses, I'm going to be making a video on the eclipses for all 12 signs. So we should, especially if I don't do it for the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse, I will, because the solar eclipse is super intense on April 8th. So the eclipse dates are going to be, and I'm mostly looking at near future here. So it's going to be March 25th, we got the lunar eclipse. April 8th, we got the total solar eclipse. So those are going to be dates of, important news that we should be getting, especially with just anyone right now, royal family, especially with all the Saturn going through the 8th house of most of their charts. I'm sure we're going to get more royal family news around the time of the eclipses there. Remember, eclipses can be influencing things for 3 to 6 months even after the eclipse. So that's how powerful the energy is. Let me go ahead and I'm going to show you in the chart where the eclipses are going to be on March 25th and then April 8th. So that's what we're going to take a look. So the eclipses are going to be where Rahu and Ketu are. So transiting Rahu, transiting Ketu are along this axis right here. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so the eclipse is happening in the 9th house and then the 3rd house. Okay, so there's some things to unpack there. Also, if we look at the moon chart over here, you'll notice it's happening through the 1st and 7th houses of the moon chart. So there's a few things that we can get out of that. First of all, 9th house can represent a focus on the father. Now, I haven't heard anything about Meghan Markle's father, But also the ninth house can represent patriarchy in a general way. So if we're thinking about the king, definitely there could be, a highlight or a magnification of the issues with that, with the ninth house. Ninth house also can represent things like religious studies. Not sure if that's going on, but maybe. The one thing I did want to talk about is, remember, there is a push pull whenever there's eclipses. It's affecting both houses along the axis. So it's the ninth house and the third house. If you notice, the third house, now this typically represents siblings, and also it can represent your state of mind. So it could be very much disrupted during this time. There could be a lot of stress. But you'll notice there's all these planets there, which is going to make this really potent in Meghan Markle's chart. So these eclipses are going to be influencing natal Jupiter, natal Saturn. So natal Jupiter, natal Saturn, and the natal moon there. First of all, on your natal moon, any type of eclipse near your moon is going to cause a lot of turbulence, like emotional turbulence, difficulty, even could represent difficulty with Megan's mother, by the way. Over Saturn here, and this is really important point to make, is remember Saturn rules the eighth house and the seventh house. So marriage and in-laws. Again, we could be hearing some news about the marriage or the in-laws around this time because of the eclipse. So the eclipses, whenever the eclipse hits really close to one of your personal planets, that's when it's a very potent eclipse. So that's what I want you all to know about. Now, if we look over the moon chart over here, the eclipses are happening in the first and seventh house. Again, the marriage is a focus. So all these things that are happening right now, this is bringing the marriage with Prince Harry into extreme focus right now. And likely we could say it's causing more difficulty because of this Saturn transit that's going through the eighth house and the Saturn going through the sixth house. So this is not an easy emotional time. And this could represent a worst case scenario, Saturn going through the sixth house for moon and then the eighth house. Most difficult scenario would be, a slow breakdown of the relationship, because what Saturn's doing is Saturn's trying to hold it together, but there's this slow breakdown that's happening as all these events are unfolding. Well, that's what I got today for Meghan Markle's chart. I'm going to be looking at more of the royal family charts here in the near future. So comment down below and let me know what you all think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.